latency. Should it be right where it's at? Low latency. Bottom left.
Yes. Yeah, it's going.
Okay. What's going?
Oh, wait, darn it. Can't do that shit. All right, cool. Okay, he's out. No, let's do it off of Rumble. Watch history. I'm streaming. I'm streaming other streamings.
Oh, you are? Oh, I didn't know you were
I don't know
streaming.
where else to get the feed. Damn it.
Oh, I thought it wasn't working.
It's working.
Okay. Well, then I will continue on with my ramblings. Well, like I was saying before, I think every generation before ours has an argument to make about their generation being better in the way that they grew up, in the way that they accomplished things. And I guess being, I guess coming up in the world like as a teenager or a young person, they can have a legitimate argument, and that's fine. You know, you can debate which one's better and which one's worse, as far as what how they grew up. But like I said, every generation after us is just all trash because I think we are the last good generation to have a good childhood, like a legitimate
Oh yeah.
balance. And
Because we have these.
because yeah, we had everything. You know, we still went outside, we still played, we still were running around knocking on our other kids' houses and trying to come out and play and just wander off in the woods and just kind of come up with your own games, hurt each other. You know, you also had TV. You know, Saturday morning cartoons were one of my favorite things in the world to do. You know, whatever was on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or, what have you.
Real
There's like
Ghostbusters.
1,000 other examples. Real Ghostbusters
Real
was awesome. That
Ghostbusters.
was right after school, if I remember. Batman, the
It
animated
was
series, that was
Saturday
awesome.
mornings. Saturday mornings was good.
Oh, okay.
And
I still
when
remember
Batman came
when I
out.
was in Copper's Cove when I was like 10. I remember coming home from school and watching Real Ghostbusters and the animated adventures. You know, then Animaniacs would come on. Doug was a good one if you had Nickelodeon. Rugrats was awesome. I like that one. Power Rangers, the original one, hit right when when Tommy went from green to white. You know, that was, and then all the ones that came after, I got no love for. Don't care about any of it.
Well, Power
I don't know.
Rangers.
I mean, we had that. We had MTV. We had and don't care about real world, but you had music videos. Like we were in the prime of that. I mean, the generation right before us, like the real Gen Xers, they're the ones who really came into their own with MTV because that really hit, seeing music videos because I think it was like 81 when MTV hit. And I think their first video was Video Killed the Radio Star, which I mean is exactly what happened.
That was the very first video.
But I don't know. Yeah, I can't
Michael
remember who sang
Jackson.
it, but anyway, but who?
Well, not Michael Jackson
No.
didn't sing it, but like that was. If I can look it up.
Anyway, so I mean, you had that. While you're looking it up, all. But yeah, I mean that you had that situation going on, and you had the best of both worlds because the internet was coming around. We still had home phones. I'd be hard pressed to see anybody below the age of 40 that have home phone. Because you don't really see it anymore. Like my mom had one up until 2 or 3 years ago until she moved, and now they don't even have one anymore.
What a TV?
You know, like
TV.
voice. No. Home phone.
Oh
You
yeah.
ever see that reel that lady's like, you know what we need, and she's talking to the camera, and like I don't know, man. Social media is just it hurts. But she's like, you know what we need? We need a phone. We need a phone for everyone in the house. Everybody, gets to use it. It just stays there, and the guy's just like, "Oh, she's talking about a landline. What year is this? Oh, she's talking about a landline." I'm like, "God damn, dude." But yeah, dude, like we saw so many innovations as our generation coming up, and the Gen Xers did too. But not only did we have, you had MTV. Like as far as TV goes, you have MTV, VH1. You had cool music videos because me and you are pretty heavily on music. Me, not as much as you, obviously, but then you had, you know, you had Star 69, Star 7, 1-800 collect.
Yeah.
I used to collect prank call. Shit, that's so
Movie
many
phone.
people. Movie phone. You had the,
Video.
you would call the time, call the weather.
It was the Buggles.
Oh, that's right. That's right. But yeah, you used to like whenever we have to set the clocks in the house, whenever it would, whenever lightning would strike, and we didn't know what phone or not phone, but what time was actually correct. You could actually call the time and set all your clocks by it. That was the thing. Then when you had you get another line, you had call waiting, answering machines. Answering machines had been around for a while, but then you had. But I remember when we got our first answering machine. It was like 92, 93. Not the ones with the tapes, the ones that you didn't need a tape for. Uh, and those are the kind of answer machines that you could call and check your messages from somewhere else. I still remember my mom's old Ericsson, her Ericsson cell phone. The first one that I saw that wasn't actually attached to the car. That was cool. Then you had the CD players whenever they got installed into cars, and you'd have to go into your trunk and change out like the not the one that you could plug in the auxiliary cord. Those still back in the days when they actually had cassette tapes, like cassette tape players. Like I remember in my Saturn, I had a cassette tape player, and I had to install. I was just talking about this today. I still remember my first CD that I put in my 91, 92 Saturn was Linkin Park Hybrid Theory. It was 1999, 2000.
I had a CD book. I had the CD books.
Oh yeah, I had a CD.
Everybody had the CD books. Where you're driving, we did fine. Like, we were probably just lucky, but we were just driving. I never got in trouble. Like, had a few close calls, but it's just never got into shit because it was just that.
Dude, the ability to multitask and drive with a knee. We are the last generation who could actually successfully pull that off to do 5 different things at once.
Flipping through the CD book and eating a burger or Taco Bell.
Yeah, smoking a cigarette and like just even when you're shifting. It's like, yeah, dude. I
never drove a manual regularly, so.
Oh, okay. But yeah, like
I learned.
Car, that's what it was, and I think that was the best way for any kid to learn, like especially back in those days. Now it's kind of becoming irrelevant. But learning a stick, because if you learn how to drive a stick, your very first car, it's the same concept of learning a different language. So if you teach, like my daughter, she's fluent in Spanish. We taught her that first because where she lives, everywhere speaks English. Everyone around here, all of her friends, all the people in school, most of them are going to speak English until the day she dies, because she's going to be in Texas, at least for the first 18 years of her life. So that's not going to be hard to pick up. So learning Spanish right off the bat, it's the same idea of learning stick. If you can do that, standard, I mean, like like a standard transmission is easy. Manual transmission, like if you learn the hard shit first, the other one's just gonna come natural. So it's all the same shit. It's just a lot of less steps. But yeah, we grew up with all that. Then we had the internet come around, and the internet was great. You're starting to find stuff online, but at the same time, while you're trying to find stuff online, you can still go to the library, and you had to find, using the Dewey Decimal System, try to find your books, and then you had to search for your answers because the internet was still brand new. You weren't finding all of these things. You didn't have every answer to every question you could ever want to ask readily available. So the information that you learned, and that's my biggest argument with
reading
people
a book
nowadays with their regurgitation of bullshit information because they don't understand the nuance of it. They can recite a fact, but just that uh, small little question, the direct answer, but you don't get anything else. You didn't have to learn. You didn't have to read and read and read through pages and books just to try to find some answer. They just give it to you. You got lazy. I mean, I thought back then school made sense because you had, not because all the classes that you took really was, yeah, like all the classes you took really were something that you were going to know for the rest of your life. You're going to let the history of like English
not
lit
necessarily
or
use
anything
it.
like that, but what it did is it made you work hard, and it showed people when you graduated, because most of the time before 15 years ago, if you just had a degree, you could get in most places because, other than specialty things, of course, but
You-
because it showed, okay, you went to college, it knows that you know how to work a schedule, you know how to multitask, you can get deadlines, you can work within deadlines, and you can work hard because college isn't easy. You have to do all of these things, still being 18, 19, 20, like still being super young and being able to thrive, and you could push through and make it through. And now it's just, it's so easy to cheat. It was fucking hard to cheat back then.
Well, now the
Like
chat
you had to
GPT is
make a
writing everybody's
real
fucking
concerted
paper.
effort. And like think about like, okay, if you're taking just a Scantron test, yeah, it's easier to cheat then. But if you have to write out a full essay, you have to know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you had to do the
nowadays
work and the
kids
research to do it.
like there was a girl that got in a fucking Ivy League school and she didn't even know how to read. There's a story going around where like
That's
she just
fucking stupid.
at
That's what I'm saying.
college
It's
is
like,
worthless.
I know we sound like old fucking fogies and shit, but our shit was better is because we were like I said, we're the last ones. And
Yeah.
and I keep seeing these things like, oh yeah, you don't want to fuck with people,
This is what a real insurrection looks like.
you know, our age, because we know how to handle shit. We got in fights for whatever fucking reason. There was no, hey, I'm gonna put a phone out as my defense. There was no defense. It's either you fight, you're getting your ass kicked, or you better run. You better be fast.
Yeah.
And there was no online bullying. You got that shit real time, in person, no filters, no bullshit. And then whenever you left school, at least you had a safe place. I read somewhere that like there's so many suicides of young girls because the bullying is relentless. They
Instagram.
go online, which is crazy to me.
You there? Yeah, it crashed. Everything crashed.
Yeah, I'm here. Fuck. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Huh?
Like I lost internet for a few minutes, for about a few, like 30 seconds or whatever.
shit. All right, man. Well, I'm going to bed, dude. It's fucking late.
Okay.
It's like we can try this tomorrow or literally any time, but